there, I've got a caught and crystal technique card to show you. This is such a lovely technique. You can do it with a variety of different colors to give you different looks. Kind of looks a little like stained glass, but this one has a very autumnal look to it, but you could do it in blues and greens and whatnot for a more springy look if you like. I'll show you the technique and then you can make your decision from there. The dies that we'll be using today are the Charming Hearts Corners from our Finishing Touches range. I have the Classic Adorned Rectangles from our new Noble range. I also have the Ornate Pierced Squares, as well as the Classic Adorned Squares, both from the Noble range. So we'll get started with the actual cotton crystal method first. For this, you'll need a piece of clear acetate, and what I recommend is using a full-size sheet, doing the entire sheet, and then cutting it down and using what you need out of it, because it's a little bit of a process that needs to dry overnight. But just for the technique, I'm going to show you a smaller square, okay? You'll have to pick some alcohol inks. I have chosen Lettuce, Sunshine Yellow, Red Pepper, and Sunset Orange for these colors for today. And I'm going to be using some Cosmic Lacquer. Now I'll start with the lacquer. And what you want to do is just, let me move these a little bit out of the way, just swirl it around your page. Find the edge of your acetate, make a little border, and just swirl it around. There you go. You can add more later if you need it, but that gives you a nice start. Now next, we're going to be doing the alcohol inks. So I'll start with the yellow, and I'm just going to drop various drops all over the page here. I'll go in with the orange. A few drops of this here and there. Just kind of scatter it around a little bit. And you kind of want it to go into each other, so they will do a little bit of running and spreading, and that's perfectly fine. Here is the red pepper. This will give you your deep colors. Ooh, I'm liking this. And I've chosen the lettuce as a little bit of a contrast. This will give you a bit of depth to your project. However, you do need to be aware that when you have some colors that you might get a little bit of muddiness. So I'm going to try and keep it away from the red. It'll mix nicely with the yellows. So we'll just mix it around here like that and fill in some of the little spots. That's looking really nice. Okay, now the last step to this is to use a little bit of mica powder. And I've got some gold mica powder here. I'm just going to take a little brush here and flick a little bit of a round. So pretty, it just gives you that extra little sheen to your project. You can use multiple colors of this if you like. It's totally your call. You can play to your heart's content and come up with any kind of different look that you want for your own project. Okay, so now that's the base to our cotton crystal. The next thing you need is a piece of just regular wrapping tissue, some white tissue. I'm going to crumple it up, get some little bit of a wrinkle going into it, and then open it back up, but don't smooth it out all the way. Just lay it over your project. And this is where you need some kitchen roll. So what you're going to do is just tamp it down into that lacquer and that alcohol ink and get it nice and attached. And so you can see how it comes through. That's why we're using some kitchen roll there. Okay, now the next step is you can turn it over and look at it. And if you've got any holes, like I can see in mine, you can go back right through that tissue and add some extra drops in of your alcohol inks. And just get that color all over your piece, okay? Give it a little bit more tamping. And then what you need to do is set this aside to dry overnight, okay? So I will put this behind me. And once it's dry overnight, let me tidy that up out of our way, you'll end up with a piece that looks like this. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Now, the thing about this is you will still have your tissue on the back. you'll need to cut it with a paper cutter to whatever size. And if you've done a larger piece, then you can use all sorts of different bits out of this for cards in the future and just grab it as you need it. The other thing with the cotton crystal is you can see how pretty that is. Once you put it onto a white, it really makes it pop. So that's what I always recommend, is to use a white card behind it. Even if it doesn't show, it'll really bring the colors of that out, okay? So I'll use this one here for my project. Now, you've got a bit of thickness in the acetate and the tissue, but I am going to go ahead and cut an aperture in the center. And because I'm not using anything too detailed, I can get away with this. It might need a couple of passes, but you can definitely do it. So let's just tape this into place. And since I'm going to be using the outer edge of this, I'm going to put my tape to the inside, because if you tape onto that acetate, you're going to leave a sticky mark and you'll show. So let's do that. Pop this into the middle of my cutting plate, and we're going to run it through. And I'm going to run it back through, going the other direction. That should catch both sides of that for us. Oh, perfect. Carefully undo this. And you could even still use that for another project if you like. That would be absolutely gorgeous in the center of something else, so we'll keep that. So what I have here is this beautiful aperture, and you've even got the little pierced lines or pierced holes all the way around the edge from the die cut. Isn't that gorgeous? So I've gone ahead and I've done one ahead of time. I've done a little bit of matting and layering, done some piercing around it, and I've got that raised with some mounting foam so we can sink our die cut into the center of that. I went ahead and cut the center of the pierced square here, so it's all ready to go. Added a couple little pearls to it. So let's glue that into place. A little bit of glue here around the edge, just to make sure it's well stuck. There we go. Pop that right down into place there. Get it underneath that edge. We've got a really, really pretty start to that card there. So we'll do our sentiment and then we'll build that up from there. I've stamped the Just For You sentiment, which is from our clear set, and I'm going to be using the inside die from the rectangle set here. So just get a hold of that little oval. Pop that into place. A little bit of tape. Get it nice and centered. There we go, and I think I'll put a little on the other side just to make sure it's secure. And we'll cut this one. Okay. Now, I'm going to add just a tiny, tiny little detail to this. Let me pop it back into the die. There we go. By using a clear perfect medium pin, I'm just going to run around the edge here. Watch my nails. There we go. And that just puts a little bit of ink on that so I can dust it really lightly with this mica dust. So I'll bring a tiny bit of sparkle back into it. In fact, we'll take it right off of that edge. Just to frame that sentiment a little bit, kind of draws your eye in, and a tiny bit of tissue to wipe away the extra bit. There we go. Put this back into place on our magnetic sheet, and I'm going to cut a piece of mounting foam for the back of that. Now I use the other oval in that same rectangle for the larger piece, so I've got a tiny mat there, which is really nice. That into the center there, and we'll seat that right into the middle of our aperture. But there's a little bit of open area. I wanted to add just a tiny bit extra. These charming heart corners are beautiful. Now if you notice, they're kind of asymmetrical, but I've designed these so all you need to do is nip away this little piece here, and you have a corner that is perfectly symmetrical, so it's usable in more ways than that. I'm going to add a tiny bit of glue onto the top there. In fact, I've got enough to do both, I think. And we'll put a little down here, seat that right up into the top so it just peeks over our sentiment and it looks like it's holding it in place. There we go. And do this side. How cute is that? There we go. And there you have it. Absolutely beautiful card. So simple. You could make this up really, really quickly. Have a bunch of these ready to go and just grab them when you need a quick card. I think it's beautiful, and I think anybody would love to have a card like this.